In the case of the president, do you get a sense that his regular attendance and adherence to the faith resonates with American Catholics?
I would say that he's very sincere about his faith, but like a number of Catholics, he picks and chooses dimensions of the faith to highlight while ignoring or even contradicting other parts. There is a phrase that we have used in the past, a cafeteria Catholic. You choose that which is attractive and dismiss that which is challenging.
Or, as Thomas Aquinas would say, you allow your conscience to guide you. Right?
Is there something on the menu he's not ordering, in your view?
Well,
so to speak?
I would say there are things, especially in terms of the life issues, there are things that he chooses to ignore, or he uses the current situation as a political pawn.
Everyone's celebrating Transgender Day of Visibility. I want you to know that your president sees you. Jill, Kamala, Doug, our entire administration sees you for who you are, made in the image of God and deserving of dignity, respect, and support.
God bless you all. Enjoy the day. And I'm coming down to do that Easter egg roll in just a minute. Thank you all so very, very much. Thanks, everybody. And by the way, say hello to oyster bunnies. Come on up, bunnies. Get up here so they can see you.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about cringe Jean-Pierre, who got triggered into an unhinged rant after being confronted on the drama that happened this weekend, where Biden was rightfully criticized for declaring Easter holiday, the holiest holiday in Christianity, as Trans Visibility Day. And a lot of people, Christians, were justifiably upset by this because they saw this as another kind of disrespectful act towards Christianity, which seems to be quite commonplace in 2024 in the United States of America, which it really is a damn shame that we're at this point. But again, a lot of people didn't like it, okay? And you have people like Ron DeSantis that have come out here and criticized Joe Biden, who essentially is trying to walk back what he did, and by saying that, well, I didn't really declare Easter the Trans Day of Visibility. It has always been the Trans Day of Visibility because the Trans Day of Visibility falls on March 31st, and Easter changes every single year. Again, a lot of Republicans, again, rightfully so, and conservatives and Christians aren't going for this excuse.
President Biden's redubbing of the holiday as Transgender Day.
Wait a minute, he said that didn't happen. He said he didn't do it. So which raises the question, either he's not being honest with the public or he really didn't know what was going on. And so my question would be, who's running the presidency? Is it a bunch of woke 20-something-year-old White House staffers that just put out this drivel whenever they want? So I don't know who's in charge. The fact that he's not owning up to it, either way it's bad. Either he's not being honest or he really didn't have anything to do with it. But what we did was we had a big Easter egg hunt. Kids didn't even change when they got back from church. They went in, they found a lot of Easter eggs, and it was like a massive amount. I told my wife, I said, that's a lot. And so they did that. And they were running around, and then it got to be, we get in, we had a nice meal, we did all that. So then we get into later in the day, no naps, just keep going nonstop. And I'm just like, it's tough to keep up. But we had a good Easter, and it's an important, the most important, for Christians, the most important holiday on the calendar. And when Biden did. I think it was ridiculous, but it does raise the issue. You go back, you can see there's a picture that'll get circulated on the internet sometimes of the New York City skyline. And I think it was from like the 1950s. I think it was Good Friday. And you had the buildings lit up with crosses. it was like big crosses.
Yeah, and those crosses have been replaced with the trans flag and, you know, the flags of all the other woke movements that the far left likes to support, okay? Which is exactly what I think people are upset about, okay? But again, what you have is Biden coming out here and basically trying to say, well, I didn't declare Easter to be Trans Day of Visibility. I didn't do that because Easter moves every single year, and Trans Day of Visibility is always on March 31st. Okay, this is what he is saying. That's the excuse from the mainstream liberal media that they are using to try to cover for Joe Biden. Okay, except Joe Biden put out this declaration here where he says, now, therefore, I, Joseph R. Biden Jr., President of the United States of America, by virtue of the authority invested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim March 31st, 2024 as Transgender Day of Visibility. I call upon all Americans to join us in uplifting the lives and voices of transgender people throughout our nation and to work towards eliminating violence and discrimination based on gender identity. You know, again, Biden may be too old to actually know what he did, right? But that is what he did, okay? I mean, his staffers may have wrote that, okay? They may have told him that, hey, you're going to do this, and he may not necessarily understand, but that's what you did, okay? But again, cringe Jean-Pierre here is trying to say that it is misinformation to say that Biden declared Trans Visibility Day on Easter, in which, I mean, he technically did. And also on top of that, I mean, let's be real. He made that declaration. He probably could have had the option not to make that declaration, but he did anyways. He didn't have to. He used his executive power to do so. And then he had members of his administration come out and not put out Easter messages talking about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, which is what Easter is supposed to be about. That is what that day is supposed to be about. But they did put out messages talking about Trans Day of Visibility.
Today marks Transgender Day of Visibility. Each year on March 31st, we celebrate transgender Americans and all that they have accomplished. We honor the many contributions transgender Americans make in health, medicine, public service, and across our nation. At the Department of Health and Human Services, our mission is to improve the health and well-being of all Americans.
At the Department of Education, we know that all students do their best when they're seen and they're supported. To the many transgender students across the country listening on this Trans Day of Visibility, we in the Biden-Harris administration want you to know that we see you, we support you, and we celebrate you. We also know it's not an easy time to be you. Walking into a classroom should be an act of hope, not an act of bravery. That every day you choose to show up as your true self, you make this world a more brave, more honest, and more free place. In your gift for seeing things as they could be, I see the promise of America. Today, we at the Department of Education want you to know that your school, your community, and your country are better because you're a part of it. You don't just belong here, we need you here. From all of us here at the Department of Education, happy Trans Day of Visibility.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. Now, after Joe Biden declared that Easter would be Trans Day of Visibility, you have members of his administration, instead of talking about the importance of health and education for Christians on what is the holiest day in Christianity, no, they actually focused on talking about the health and education of trans people. But yet they're trying to tell you that, hey, we're not trying to prioritize the woke revolutionaries over Christians in this country, right? Except we're going to take Christians' most important holiday and we're going to talk more about other people, right? Things that don't have anything to do with Christianity over Christianity, right? I mean, they weren't talking about, again, how it's important that, you know, Christians walk into the classroom and feel accepted, right? As Christian children, okay? Or how, you know, the health of Christian people is important in this country. No, they never said that at all. Didn't make any statement about that, right? But, you know, hey, they're trying to tell you that they're not prioritizing the woke agenda over everybody else, right? This is what they say, okay? So let's listen to Cringe try to gaslight us into how it is misinformation to criticize Joe Biden over what clearly and obviously is, you know, a part of the woke agenda here. So let's get into it.
We certainly will have more information to share. I just don't have any details at this time. Okay, well, Thank you. So the criticism over the Transgender Day of Visibility, the White House said that the president wouldn't abuse his faith for political purposes. Does the president think that's what Republicans are doing on this?
I mean, look, just a couple of things, and really so surprised by the misinformation that's been out there around this, and I want to be very clear. Every year for the past several years, on March 31st, Transgender Day of Visibility is marked. And as we know, for folks who understand the calendar and how it works, Easter falls on different Sundays, right? Every year. And this year it happened to coincide with Transgender Visibility Day.
And because of that, Biden could have said, just out of respect for Christians in this country, we will celebrate the day on another day, right? We will say, hey, we're going to acknowledge Trans Visibility Day on another day, right? He could have done that. The fact that he had to declare a proclamation, right? He had to declare that, hey, the power invested in me as President of the United States, I'm going to declare March 31st, which happens to be Easter, Trans Visibility Day, tells you that he didn't have to do that, right? That could have been optional, okay? He didn't have to, but he did it anyways, okay? He could have easily chose a different route. He could have said, you know what? We'll acknowledge this day on another day, right? We'll pick another day to do it. But that's not what they did. That's not what they did. But what they want to tell you, what they want to gaslight you into believing is that, well, Biden didn't want to weaponize his faith for political purposes, right? This is what they're accusing Republicans of doing, okay? Saying that, well, if you got a problem with essentially trying to push wokeness on a Christian holiday and to prioritize the woke agenda over what, again, is a Christian holiday, then you're weaponizing your faith for political purposes, right? Saying that, well, maybe we should be celebrating a whole bunch of other stuff on Christians' Holiest Day. Again, apparently, you're weaponizing your faith to push your political agenda. Amazing stuff. This is the talking point.
And so that is the simple fact. That is what has happened. That is where we are. And I do want to say a couple of things because I think it's important here. As you just stated in your questions, what we've been hearing out there, a lot of misinformation done on purpose. And as a Christian who celebrates Easter with family, President Biden stands for bringing people together and upholding the dignity and freedoms of every American. Now, sadly, and it's not surprising, right? It is actually unsurprising that politicians are seeking to divide and weaken our country with cruel, hateful, and dishonest rhetoric.
Again, here we go. Here we go. Any criticisms of what clear and obviously is an attempt to push a far left agenda is hate and bigotry, right? This is what they do in order to avoid criticism, okay? Because cringe Jean-Pierre here is essentially arguing that, well, it's misinformation. Well, what's the misinformation? There's no misinformation. Biden came out here and declared that March 31st, which happens to be Easter, is Trans Day of Visibility. I don't care about it being celebrated on March 31st before. He didn't have to do it, right? He still did not have to acknowledge it. He could have chose not to. And then also add on the fact that his administration, members of his administration, went out of their way to promote Trans Day of Visibility more than they went out of the way to promote Easter. Tells you everything you need to know, right, about the agenda. That's the problem. Because he didn't have to acknowledge. He could have said, well, just out of respect for Easter, we're just not going to acknowledge it this year, right? We're just going to pass. We'll talk about it next week or something, right? He chose not to do that. And now he's getting criticism for it, and they want to say, well, it's hateful. Again, ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
It is dishonest what we have heard the past 24 hours. It is untrue what we heard over the weekend. And, you know, we were at first, want to be very clear, confused on their coverage. We're grateful that Fox agrees with President Biden about the importance of recognizing Trans Day of Visibility. And I'll just quote something that Fox said. Back in 2021, they tweeted this: Trans Day of Visibility is dedicated to celebrating transgender people. To all the transgender men, women, and non-binary folk, we see you and stand with you. President Biden will never abuse his faith or for political purposes or for profit. That is not what this administration is about.
Yeah, so I want you guys to understand. If you have a problem with the government essentially trying to push the woke agenda on Christians' holiest day, then you are abusing your faith, right? Are you listening? Like, listen to these people talk. They're basically telling you you're abusing your faith, okay? You're weaponizing your faith if you feel offended that the government is basically trying to belittle your faith and to push their agenda, a woke agenda, over your faith, right? This is, again, this is what they're saying. They're trying to make you feel bad, like you're the bad guy for saying, hey, can we have a day, right? Can we have one day, okay, where is, you know, we don't have this push down our throats, okay, where you're not prioritizing everybody else over us. No, you can't do that, okay? You have to be tolerant of that, but they don't have to be tolerant of you. And again, that's the problem. That's the issue here.
That is not what being a leader is about. And this misinformation out there is it's bad. And it is dividing, it is caused to divide us. And I want to say one more quote. This is what Politico covered every year. And I said this at the top of my answer. Transgender Day of Visibility is on March 31st. This year, March 31st just so happens to be also Easter, the date of which changes every year. That's how I started out, and that's how I end.
Thank you.
Don't matter, right? Don't matter. He could have chose not to acknowledge it. He could have said, again, out of respect for the Christian faith and Easter, we're just not going to acknowledge it, right? We're going to skip over this, right? We're not going to say anything about who would have been mad. Like, real talk, who would have been upset if Biden just would have been like, nah, we're not going to acknowledge this year. Nobody would have been mad. Okay, the woke revolutionaries would have been upset, but it wouldn't have been that many of them, right? But see, now, again, this is how comfortable they feel disrespecting Christianity, guys. Okay? They feel much more comfortable potentially pissing off half of the country than pissing off 1% to 2% of the country. That is where we're at in this country right now. And it really is a damn shame. It really is. And for the administration to come out here and to try to tell you that you're the bad guy, right? You're weaponizing your faith because you are just saying, show us a little bit of respect on our holiest day, is sickening. It is really showing you how far we have failed as a country, that the values and beliefs that help build this country, what we founded this country on, right? The cultural Christian values, okay, that founded this country, we're losing them. We're losing them. And again, what happened this weekend is really an example of that. And that's why this is such a big deal and such a big story. So, hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.